I do want to look at different countries and different people, and some countries, people, and nations are affected and will be affected more than others. And some countries are more or less functioning and moving on, and some other countries are almost completely shut down. Let me start with my country first. I'm from California, or I have lived there for a while. So I want to point out that one of the main problems with Americans is that they live in debt. They borrow all the time. So basically, they're waiting from month to month for their paycheck so they can pay their bills. Another thing that I notice for people that like to live in debt, or they like to live by constantly borrowing, is that they're taking, I would say, let's just call it a stupid risk. In other words, a lot of people in the US, they buy things that they don't necessarily need or can afford, just for the sake of that the society sort of pushes you or creates this environment, this consumerism, where people are encouraged to buy outside of their means. So what happens is, as soon as you have a major crisis like this and you don't get a paycheck, or your paycheck is substantially smaller than the previous one, then you have a major problem. Let me compare this to the situation in Taiwan, where people are discouraged to live on debt or to live by borrowing. And most people here either pay up front or pay with cash, or they just simply buy things within their means, and they usually wait till they make more money to buy things that they can afford at the time. So that also translates that they are taking less risks, or they are not taking any stupid risks. Now, what happens when you take stupid risks? Well, it also reflects into your lifestyle and your eating habits and your health habits, and you can see that many Americans, I wouldn't say most, but many Americans are quite unhealthy. They're overweight, they have a lot of chronic diseases, and when you're dealing with a situation like this, not only that it will affect your health a lot worse, but you will also have problems recovering. Whereas a healthier population, like many Asians that are not obese, or not as many are obese, and not as many have chronic diseases and diabetes and cardiovascular diseases and so on and so forth. Not only that, they will not suffer so much from this situation, but they will also recover quicker. So this is a very important aspect, and this translates to another issue, which we can see that at the present time, or at the moment, the country of Taiwan is actually functioning. And another thing is, Taiwanese are not ashamed to wear their masks. They're not triggered by the fact that if they see someone wearing a mask, it's going to be a problem. So, quite interestingly, my cousin, which works in a hospital in California, said that she's only allowed to wear a mask when she enters the ICU. the other time she's not allowed to wear a mask because the management said that they don't want to freak out the patients. Go figure. I mean, you work in a very, very dangerous place where your health is on the line, and you know, your management is worried about that you're going to freak out patients, and they're not worried about your life. So other issues with different countries and places are in Taiwan. People are not so touchy-huggy, and they kind of keep a distance. They bow when they greet, but in countries, many countries in Europe, people are very huggy-touchy when they greet each other, and that's why we're seeing these problems in Italy and Spain and so on and so forth. I just couldn't understand the fact that the Italians had to go out of the way and hug a bunch of infected people to show that they're macho and they're strong in a situation where I think you have to show that you are careful, you are considerate, and machismo is not what's going to save the day, but rather your ability to make good decisions. I want to also talk about something interesting, since Andrew Young's idea was to give all Americans a certain amount of money, $1,000 in this case. Okay, so going back to Andrew Young's dividend of $1,000, I think this is an important issue that can open up some interesting perspectives for the future of America. First, I want to say that this is an old idea. It's been quite a while since other people have thought of providing a dividend for Americans. Even Martin Luther King talked about it, and interestingly enough, he said that it's a good thing for all Americans, not just certain groups or minorities. And I believe that something like this could very well help to end or to solve issues like reparations, you know, all this racial tensions, and so on and so forth. So, would a dividend like this work in other places? Maybe yes, maybe no. In the case of Taiwan, I would say don't fix something that's not broken. But in the case of the US, which has a failed welfare state, where the welfare state, here's the biggest problem. It takes irresponsible people and forces them to basically be even more irresponsible. What do I mean by that? Well, think about this. You have a mother on welfare that has 2 kids with most likely the same number of irresponsible sperm donors. Now, you know that you can get more money if you have more kids. So perhaps next time around, just to get another kid, you might go for an even more irresponsible sperm donor that might have STDs, AIDS, you know, he might be an alcoholic, a crack addict, what have you, and then that's how you end up with all the problems of the welfare state, of crack babies, alcoholic babies, HIV babies, HIV mothers, alcoholic mothers, you name it, and it's all there. And it's interesting because no politician, especially the Democratic Party, ever talk about these problems and try to come up with some solutions. But I do believe that such a dividend can really help out. Because let's say you give this dividend to all Americans and you also allow them to work and earn as much money as they want. But you tell all Americans, look, this dividend that you get, $1,000 a month, that's all you get. So you have to manage it. You have to be careful how you plan your life, and how you plan how many kids you can have and raise on it, and so on and so forth. So of course, something like this would force irresponsible people to become more responsible rather than forcing them to become even more irresponsible and create more problems for the taxpayers and for the country. So I believe that this can really do something good for the US, and better sooner than later. And maybe this virus, even though I wouldn't say that it's never a good thing when something like this happens, but better sooner than later, because it can probably force us to jump or to leap into the future and do things that we probably wouldn't have done for another 15 years or 20 years maybe. Who knows? Even 5 years, it will still be late if we could do it right now, if we could start implementing things that can help out the country and the people in the long run. Another thing is the AI, or artificial intelligence. Perhaps some people are afraid of AI, but Andrew Yang had a good point. He said, well, it's gonna happen no matter what, so why don't we just prepare for it? And I believe the sooner it happens, the better, because in a situation like this, where all the production and manufacturing is in one place, like China. Well, what if we had AI operating and robots pretty much in all countries? Then we wouldn't have to wait for products from China, and we can see that Walmart's shelves and Costco and other stores, they're pretty much empty, because when China was down with this problem, they weren't able to ship out or manufacture any of the products that many countries need. Now, if all these countries had already been using AI and robots, and you wouldn't need to worry about China or any other place for that matter. So I believe that this incident may have opened up a view for many of us that we can think about and benefit from, and I hope that some of the things that we analyzed together have opened up some horizons. I hope that some of you will share and comment. Perhaps you have even better ideas or things that you have learned from this situation that you can share with me. I'm, of course, more than willing to learn from anyone and everyone. I especially tell my students that I particularly enjoy learning from them. And I even learn from my kids.